The abandoned steel factory was never quiet, not even at 3 a.m. when the city slept. But that night, something unnatural disturbed its eerie stillness. Guards stationed at the perimeter heard it first, sharp cracks echoing through the darkness, leather against metal, a sound that shouldn't exist in their violent world. One guard whispered into his radio, voice shaking, "Boss, there's a woman in Sector 3. She's using a belt like I don't know what." "A belt?" The voice crackled back, confused. "What the hell are you talking about?" For 5 years, no civilian had survived entering enemy territory during a turf war. Not once. But inside, beneath the flickering industrial lights, the Korean Mafia's rival enforcers lay groaning on the concrete floor, disarmed, humiliated, defeated. Not by guns, not by knives, by strips of designer leather moving faster than their eyes could track. The woman responsible stood in the center of the carnage, chest rising and falling steadily, her curvy silhouette outlined by sparks from damaged machinery. Her dark skin glistened with exertion but not fear. Her belt, Hermes, brown leather, gold buckle, hung loosely in her right hand like an extension of her will. No woman had ever walked into Baek Tae-min's operation and walked out breathing. The rule was absolute, carved in blood over decades of gang warfare. 30 feet above on the catwalk, Kang Dae-jung stood frozen, watching security footage replay on his tablet. His wife, his Sable, the American consultant who was supposed to be safe at the penthouse. She was supposed to stay away from this world. He watched her whip the belt in a perfect arc, wrapping it around a thug's wrist and yanking his gun away before he could fire. Watched her pivot like a dancer, using momentum to slam another attacker into a support beam. Watched her adapt, learn, evolve with every threat. A man rebuilt from violence and strategy, reduced to awe, shaken to his core. He gripped the railing and whispered in Korean, then English, "What have you become?" 18 hours earlier, Sable Washington sat in the floor-to-ceiling windowed conference room of Kang Enterprises, reviewing shipping manifests that didn't quite add up. Numbers never lied to her. People did, but numbers, they were honest companions in a city that traded in deception. Her tablet pinged, a message from Dae-jung. "Working late, don't wait up." She smirked. 3 months married, and he still thought she couldn't read between his corporate-speak lines. Working late meant meeting with his lieutenants. Don't wait up meant violence was scheduled for after midnight. The door opened without a knock, never a good sign. Min Jae, Dae-jung's head of security, entered with that particular tension in his shoulders that meant trouble wore a suit today. "Mrs. Kang," he bowed slightly, respect mixed with urgency. "We have a situation." Sable set down her stylus, meeting his eyes. She'd learned quickly in Seoul, show weakness once, become a target forever. Define situation. Baek Tae-min sent a package to the penthouse. Our team intercepted it. Her stomach tightened, but her expression remained neutral. Baek Tae-min, the name whispered in boardrooms and back alleys with equal parts respect and terror. Dae-jung's oldest enemy, a rivalry born from a business deal gone nuclear 15 years ago. Bodies still turned up occasionally, reminders that some grudges aged like fine wine. What kind of package? Min Jae pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. A wooden box, expensive craftsmanship with her name carved on the lid. Inside, nestled in black velvet, a single white chrysanthemum, funeral flowers in Korean culture, and a photograph. Sable's breath caught. The photograph showed her from yesterday, leaving the gallery in Gangnam. Someone had been following her. Someone wanted her to know. "There's a note," Min Jae's voice dropped. "It says, 'Beautiful things break easily.' Let's test that theory." Rage flashed hot through her chest, but she channeled it into cold calculation, a skill she'd perfected during her years navigating corporate racism in Atlanta before Seoul. "Where's my husband?" "En route to a secure location. He wants you moved to the safe house immediately." "No." Min Jae blinked. "Mrs. Kang, this is a direct threat." "I said no." Sable stood, her full 5'9" frame radiating an authority that had nothing to do with her last name. "I'm not hiding because some fossil with a grudge wants to play psychological warfare. Where is Baek's operation centered?" I can't give you that information." She walked around the desk, heels clicking against marble. "Minjai, I respect the protocol. I respect the hierarchy. But that threat wasn't sent to Kang Daejung. It was sent to me. So either you tell me what I need to know, or I'll ask my husband directly, and we both know he's going to be furious that this conversation even happened." The security chief's jaw worked. Finally, "The steel factory, District 9. But Mrs. Kang, thank you." She grabbed her Burberry coat from the rack. "Have a car ready in 10 minutes. "You can't be serious." Sable paused at the door, looking back with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Bak Tae-min made a mistake. He thought I was a weakness. I'm about to educate him on the difference between weakness and restraint. She left Min-jae standing there, already dialing Daejung's emergency line, already knowing the storm this would unleash. But Sable had learned something crucial in 3 months of navigating Seoul's underworld as a Black American woman married to Korean Mafia royalty. Respect wasn't given, it was taken. Usually by force. In the elevator down to the parking garage, she unhooked her belt, Hermes, a gift from Daejung on their 1-month anniversary. Soft leather, perfectly broken in, with enough weight in the buckle to make a statement. She'd grown up in Atlanta's roughest neighborhoods before scholarships carried her to corporate America. Her grandmother had taught her young, "Baby girl, you're going to be underestimated your whole life. Use it." The elevator doors opened. Her phone buzzed. Daejung calling. She sent it to voicemail, texting instead, "Trust me, I know what I'm doing." His reply came instantly. "Where are you?" She typed, "Fixing your problem. Home by midnight." Then powered off the phone. The black Mercedes waited, Min-jae at the wheel looking like he'd swallowed glass. "Mrs. Kang, please reconsider. Drive or get out and I'll drive myself." He drove. Seoul at night blurred past the windows, neon and shadow, wealth and desperation existing in the same breath. District 9 approached, industrial and hostile, where legitimate business went to die and questions weren't asked. "Stop here." Sable pointed to an alley 2 blocks from the factory. "Wait for my signal." "What signal?" Min-jae's voice cracked with stress. "You'll know it when you see it." She stepped out into the cold November air, belt coiled in her hand. "If I'm not back in 30 minutes, call my husband. Tell him I love him, and tell him I was right." Right about what? That I wasn't the one who needed protecting. She walked toward the factory, each step a commitment to a truth she'd known but never fully embraced. She wasn't just Daejung's wife, she was her own weapon. And tonight, Seoul's underworld would learn what happened when you threatened the wrong woman. The factory loomed ahead, windows dark except for faint light deep inside. Guards at the entrance, she counted 4 visible, probably 6 total, all armed, all underestimating the curvy black woman in designer clothes, approaching like she owned the night. One stepped forward, hand on his holster. "Lost, sweetheart?" Sable smiled. "Not even a little bit. I'm here to see Bak Tae-min." "Yeah?" He laughed, looking back at his companions. "Boss doesn't take walk-ins. He sent me an invitation, flowers and everything. So here I am." The guard's smile faded. Recognition clicked. "You're Kang's." Her belt snapped out faster than his draw, leather cracking across his wrist. The gun clattered to the pavement. Before the others could react, she moved, fluid, precise, channeling every self-defense class, every street fight from her past, every lesson this violent city had taught her. The belt became a whip, a restraint, a club. She looped it around ankles and pulled, snapped it across faces, used the buckle like brass knuckles when one got too close. 4 guards down in 90 seconds, groaning but alive, conscious enough to remember, to spread the word. Sable stood over them, barely winded, and spoke clearly. "Tell your boss Sable Washington Kang doesn't hide. She shows up, and she finishes conversations." She walked through the entrance into the factory proper, leaving chaos in her wake and carrying nothing but leather, rage, and absolute certainty that tonight would change everything. The factory loomed ahead, machinery covered in dust and bad decisions, shadows that moved with intention. More guards appeared, at least 8 this time, better armed and trained. They fanned out, tactical. Their leader stepped forward, scarred and confident. "Mrs. Kang, brave or stupid?" Why not both? She let the belt hang loose, non-threatening, waiting. Boss wants to meet you. Says any woman who walks in here either has a death wish or a message. Tell him it's both. The lead guard gestured. They surrounded her but didn't grab, professional courtesy to someone who'd taken down 4 men single-handedly. They led her deeper into the factory, past rusted equipment and questionable stains, to a makeshift office constructed from shipping containers. Bak Tae-min sat behind a metal desk, older than expected, maybe 65, with eyes like frozen smoke. He studied her the way collectors examined art before deciding whether to buy or burn. Sable Washington Kang. His English was pristine, American-educated. The legendary consultant who civilized the wolf. I expected someone taller. I expected someone smarter than to threaten me in writing. She stood relaxed, belt still in hand. But I guess we're both disappointed. His smile held no warmth. You have fire. I see why Daejung broke his celibacy for you. 10 years of ice melted by American heat. Poetic. Still doesn't explain the funeral flowers and the creepy surveillance photo. Direct. Good. Bak leaned back. I sent them because I wanted to see what you were made of. Would you hide, cry to your husband, send lawyers? Instead, I showed up, so now you know. Now I know you're dangerous. He stood, circling the desk, which creates a problem. See, my war with Kang Daejung is old, comfortable. We understand each other. You're chaos. You disrupt the balance. Sable watched him move, calculating distances, exits, threats. The balance where you send death threats to civilians? You stopped being civilian the moment you married into the Kang family. Bak stopped 5 feet away. Now you're a piece on the board, and I'm deciding whether you're a pawn or a queen. Neither. I'm the player who flips the board. His laugh was dry leaves. Confidence. I admire that, but confidence without backup is just noise. He snapped his fingers. The guards moved in, weapons drawn, but not pointed, yet. 8 versus 1. The math was clear. Sable didn't flinch. You really want to start a war over intimidating your rival's wife? That's some small energy thinking. Who said anything about war? Bak's smile sharpened. I'm simply teaching you respect. Seoul isn't Atlanta. Here, respect is paid in blood or fear. Your choice. The first guard reached for her arm. Mistake. Her belt whipped up, wrapped around his wrist, yanked him off balance. She pivoted, using his momentum to crash him into the guard beside him. The buckle flashed in the dim light as she swung it like a medieval flail, cracking across a third guard's temple. He dropped. Chaos exploded. They came at her from all sides, but the shipping container office was cramped. Their numbers became a disadvantage. She moved like water through gaps, never stopping, never static. The belt extended her reach, became unpredictable. She wrapped it around a rifle barrel, yanked it free, kicked the guard in the solar plexus. Someone grabbed her from behind. She snapped her head back, skull meeting nose with a crunch. Spun, elbow to ribs, knee to groin. He fell. She didn't pause, flowing into the next threat. Bak watched with calculating interest, not intervening, studying her like a thesis defense. 2 guards left standing. They charged together. Sable feinted left, went right, snapped the belt low across ankles. They tripped, sprawling. She was on them instantly, looping leather around wrists, pulling tight enough to cut circulation, to make a point. Silence, except for groaning. 8 professional enforcers on the ground. Sable stood in the center, chest heaving, belt now scuffed and battle-worn but unbroken. Her dress had torn at the hem. Blood, not hers, speckled her collar. She looked at Bak. Still think I'm chaos? For the first time, something like respect flickered in his frozen eyes. I think you're the most dangerous thing I've seen in 20 years. Good. Remember that before you send any more flowers. She moved toward the door, stepping over bodies. Tell your men thanks for the warm welcome. We should do this again, never. Wait. She paused, didn't turn fully. Unless you're apologizing, I'm done listening. Your husband will come for me after this. You know that. Now she looked back. Then maybe you shouldn't have started something you can't finish. Can I finish it? Bak's question hung heavy. That's what I'm trying to determine. You're not what I expected. You're not a weakness. You're a multiplier. Kang with you is twice as dangerous as Kang alone. 3 times. She smiled without humor. I do math for a living. I know my value. Then you know this doesn't end here. I poked the tiger. Now I have to decide. Back down or commit fully. Sable walked back to the desk, planted both hands on it, leaning in close. Here's some free consulting back. You're operating on old intelligence. You thought threatening me would rattle Dae-jung, make him sloppy, but you miscalculated. We're not a weakness to each other. We're an alliance, and alliances don't break under pressure. They attack. She straightened, turned, walked out. Behind her, Back sat slowly, mind clearly racing through scenarios and consequences. His guards groaned themselves back to consciousness, humiliation and awe mixing in their expressions. Outside, the November air felt crisp and clean after the factory's industrial decay. Sable's phone powered back on, immediately exploding with notifications. 17 missed calls from Dae-jung, 12 from Min-jae, 6 from various security personnel, 1 text from her husband, sent 4 minutes ago. I know where you are. Don't move. I'm coming. She texted back. Already done. Heading to you now. The response came instantly. Done? What did you do? What needed doing? See you soon. Love you. She walked the 2 blocks back to where Min-jae waited, the security chief's face cycling through relief, terror, and resignation. Mrs. Kong, is that blood? Not mine. Let's go home. Your husband is going to be proud, angry, terrified, and impressed, probably in that order. She slid into the Mercedes. Min-jae, you ever been underestimated? He pulled into traffic. Every day until I proved myself. Then you know, sometimes the only way to make people see you clearly is to show them what they refuse to believe. They drove through Seoul's nightscape, heading toward the penthouse and the inevitable confrontation. Sable stared at her reflection in the window, makeup smudged, hair wild, dress damaged, but eyes clearer than they'd been in months. She'd married into violence and tried to stay separate from it, believing she could be the normal anchor in Dae-jung's storm. Tonight taught her different. She wasn't the anchor, she was part of the storm, and storms didn't hide. Her phone rang. Dae-jung. She answered. Before you yell, are you hurt? His voice was pure steel wrapped in fear. No, bruised maybe, but functional. Silence. Then, Min-jae says you went to Beck's factory. I did. Alone. I took my belt. Another pause. Longer. She could almost hear him processing, calculating, fighting between fury and something else. Stay on the line. I'm 2 minutes behind you. They drove in connected silence, her listening to his breathing, him listening to hers. The simple confirmation that both were alive, both intact. The penthouse appeared ahead, top 3 floors of a building that touched Seoul's sky. Min-jae pulled into the private garage just as Dae-jung's convoy arrived. 3 black SUVs, tactical and tense. Her husband emerged from the center vehicle before it fully stopped. Tall, lean, carved from expensive suits and colder decisions. His eyes found her through the Mercedes window, and something in his expression cracked. He opened her door himself, a break in protocol that made his security team shift uncomfortably. For a long moment, he just looked at her, cataloging damage, calculating risk, processing what she'd done. You went to war, he said quietly in Korean, then in English, without me. I went to deliver a message. There's a difference. His hand came up, gentle, touching the small cut on her cheek she hadn't noticed. You're bleeding. You should see them. I will. I'm burning that factory to the ground tonight. Dae-jung. He threatened you, sent you funeral flowers, stalked you. Then you fought 8 of his men alone. His voice stayed quiet, but she heard the violence coiling beneath. That requires an answer written in fire. Sable caught his wrist. I already answered it. They know now. I'm not some porcelain doll to break. I'm mine. The word came out possessive and proud, and nobody touches what's mine. Yours? She raised an eyebrow despite everything. We need to workshop that phrasing. His almost smile flickered. Partnership? Alliance? What word makes you not walk into enemy territory alone again? How about we discuss it upstairs? I need a shower and possibly a drink. He nodded, but didn't release her hand as they walked to the private elevator. His security team melted into formation around them, professional and silent. In the elevator, just the two of them, Daejung finally spoke again. Min Jae said you took down 4 guards at the entrance, then 8 inside Beck's office. Math checks out. With a belt. Hermes, the one you gave me. Turns out it's multifunctional. He stared at the elevator numbers climbing. I married a consultant, an analyst, someone who lived in spreadsheets and strategy meetings. You married all of that, but you also married a woman from Atlanta who fought for every inch of respect in a world designed to dismiss her. Sable squeezed his hand. I'm not fragile, Daejong. I never was. I just let you think I needed protection because it made you feel better. And now? I know we stop pretending. I'm in this world whether we like it or not. So instead of hiding me away like treasure, how about we figure out what we can accomplish together? The elevator opened to their penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Seoul's infinite lights. Min Jae pulled her close, forehead against hers, breathing her in like confirmation of life. You terrified me tonight. Good. Now you know how I feel every time you work late. This isn't a joke. I'm not joking. I'm serious. We're partners, right? Then treat me like a one. Not a liability, not a secret. A partner. He pulled back, studying her face. Then slowly he nodded. Partners. Which means we plan together, attack together. No more solo missions. Deal. Now can I please shower? I have industrial grime in places grime shouldn't be. His laugh was short but genuine. Go. I'll handle Beck's response. There won't be one tonight. I scared him. He's rethinking his whole strategy. How do you know? Because I know men. The scared ones get quiet while they regroup. The smart ones back down. Beck's smart. He'll either apologize through channels or wait for a better opening. Either way, we have time. Daejong watched her walk toward the master bathroom, this woman who'd entered his frozen life 3 months ago and detonated everything he thought he knew about strength, partnership, and power. His phone buzzed. A message from his intelligence chief. Beck's factory is quiet. No retaliation moves. They're spooked. He texted back. Monitor closely. Report any changes. Then he followed his wife toward the sound of running water, already planning how their alliance would reshape Seoul's underworld. But for tonight, he just needed to hold her, confirm she was real, whole, alive, because Sable Washington Kang had done something impossible. She'd walked into an enemy stronghold alone, survived, and made them fear her more than they feared him. And that changed everything. Subscribe to Love and Tension for more intense stories that'll keep you at the edge of your seat. Hit that notification bell. Morning came soft through the penthouse windows, Seoul waking in layers of gold and gray. Sable surfaced from sleep slowly, body cataloging bruises she'd earned and wore like medals. Her ribs ached on the left side, someone's elbow probably. Her knuckles were scraped raw, but she was whole, victorious. Daejong's side of the bed was empty but still warm. She found him on the terrace, phone in hand, already conducting business in rapid Korean. He wore black slacks and a white shirt unbuttoned at the collar, the closest thing to casual she'd seen him outside the bedroom. He noticed her, held up one finger. 1 minute, finished his conversation with clipped authority, then turned, offering coffee. How do you feel? He asked. Like I fought 8 professional thugs and won. She accepted the cup, savoring the perfect temperature. He'd learned her preferences quickly. How do I look? Dangerous. That wasn't the question. His lips curved slightly. Beautiful, dangerous, magnificent. Better. She settled into the chair beside him. What's the temperature? Daejong understood immediately. She was asking about fallout. Beck's organization is silent. No communication, no moves against our operations. Complete radio silence. Told you, scared. Maybe, or planning. He studied her carefully. My captains want to meet you, formally. Sable paused mid-sip. Your captains, the ones who run your actual operations? Yes. The ones you've kept me separated from because mixing family and business is dangerous? That separation ended last night when you invaded Beck's territory. Dejong leaned forward. They've heard what you did. They have questions. What kind of questions? The kind where they assess whether you're an asset or a liability. Sable laughed, sharp and honest. They want to know if the black American wife is going to get their boss killed through amateur heroics. Essentially. When? Tonight. Neutral location. Just conversation. Conversation with armed Mafia captains. Sure, sounds like a normal Tuesday. She sipped her coffee, mind already working angles. What do you want from this meeting? Dejong's expression shifted. Something calculating and proud mixing together. I want them to see what I see. That you're not a weakness, you're a force multiplier. And if they don't see that, then I need to know which ones to replace. She felt the weight of that statement. He was testing his own organization through her, using last night's chaos as a litmus test for loyalty and vision. You're using me, she said without heat, as a filter. I'm using us. Partnership, remember? You proved you can handle yourself physically. Now prove you can handle the politics. No pressure. Sable. He reached across, took her hand. You walked into an enemy stronghold alone and dominated. 8 trained fighters. You dominated. Do you understand how rare that is? How valuable? I understand I got lucky. Luck is preparation meeting opportunity. You've been preparing your whole life for exactly this. Street fights in Atlanta, corporate warfare in boardrooms. Now, mafia politics in Seoul. It's all the same game with different weapons. She squeezed his hand. You really believe that? I watched the security footage, all of it. You weren't lucky, you were tactical. You used the environment, their overconfidence, the belt's unpredictability. You fought smart, not just hard. My grandmother taught me, baby girl, in a world that wants you small, you gotta fight big. Your grandmother was wise. She was a terror. Would have liked you, actually. Sable stood, stretching carefully. Okay, tonight, neutral location, I meet the captains. What's the dress code? Business casual or I will end you chic? Be yourself. They need to see the real you. The real me would wear sneakers and make everyone uncomfortable with honesty. Perfect. She laughed, kissed the top of his head. You're either very brave or very stupid for turning me loose on your organization. Both. Definitely both. Inside, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Impressive performance last night. We should talk. B. She showed Dae-jung. His jaw tightened. Beck, he confirmed, reaching out directly. He's bypassing you, talking to me like an independent player. Which you are. Yeah, but that's not a compliment in his context. He's testing whether we're united or if I'm a weak link he can exploit. Dae-jung took her phone, typed a response. Mrs. Kang's schedule is coordinated through her husband. You know this. Sent it before she could stop him. Her phone buzzed again immediately. Old rules for old games. She made new rules last night. Sable reclaimed her phone, typed quickly. New rules, same answer. You want conversation, ask properly. Threats and late-night ambush invitations don't impress me. She hit send before second-guessing. Dae-jung watched her with something between concern and admiration. Beck's response took 3 minutes. Lunch. Thursday. Neutral ground. Just conversation between professionals. He's serious, Sable said. He actually wants to talk business, which means he sees you as a player now, separate from me. Is that a problem? Dae-jung considered. Only if you make decisions without consulting me. Partnership, she reminded him. We decide together. Then we need to discuss what you'd say to him, what leverage we have, what he might offer. They spent the next 2 hours strategizing, drinking coffee, planning like the alliance they'd claimed to be. Dae-jung walked her through Beck's operations, his weaknesses, his assets. She absorbed it all, asking sharp questions, seeing patterns he'd missed from proximity. He's overextended in District 7, she noted, studying the maps he'd spread on the dining table. Look, 3 nightclubs, 2 warehouses, 1 casino, all within 4 blocks. That's not strategic positioning, that's ego. He wanted to dominate that territory, make a statement. He made himself vulnerable. Too many assets in one location means a single coordinated strike could cripple him. She traced the pattern with one finger. If I wanted to hurt Beck, I'd create a problem here, she pointed to the casino. Make the authorities interested. Sudden raid, found irregularities, shut it down. Dominoes fall. The warehouses lose their money laundering route, the nightclubs lose their supply chain. Dae-jung stared at the map, then at her. You've been in this world 3 months and you're already strategizing like a captain. I told you, I do math. This is just applied economics with violence. He pulled her close, kissed her hard. Not passion, respect made physical. When he released her, Sable smiled. What was that for? For being exactly who you are. No apologies, no shrinking. Good, because I'm just getting started. The rest of the day passed in preparation. Dae-jung had a tailor deliver 3 outfits for the evening meeting, each one calculated for different impressions. She chose the middle option. Black slacks, burgundy silk blouse, low heels. Professional but not trying to impress. Her belt, cleaned and reconditioned overnight by someone on staff, completed the look. Still wearing it? Dae-jung asked as she buckled it. Always. It's proven effective. As a weapon or a statement? Yes. Evening arrived. They traveled in separate cars to the meeting location, a private restaurant in Gangnam that Dae-jung's organization owned but operated legitimately. The separation was tactical. Arriving together suggested she was an accessory. Arriving independently suggested she was a player. Sable's car arrived first. She walked in alone, ignoring the stares from staff who clearly hadn't expected the boss's wife without escort. The private room in the back was already occupied. 4 men, all Korean, ranging in age from 30s to 50s. Each one radiated violence barely contained by expensive suits. They stood when she entered. Reflects respect or calculation? She couldn't tell yet. Mrs. Kang, the oldest one, spoke in English. We've heard impressive things. And I've heard you run the Eastern operations with ruthless efficiency, Captain Wong. She'd memorized their files this afternoon. Please, sit. We're all adults here. They sat, reassessing. She'd used his name correctly, acknowledged his reputation, and taken control of the room's energy without asking permission. Dae-jung's lessons in action. The youngest captain, maybe 35, spoke next. You really took down 8 of Beck's men alone? I did. They underestimated me. I corrected their mistake. With a belt, another added, skeptical. Sable unhooked it, laid it on the table between them. Hermes, full-grain leather, solid brass buckle, 3 feet of reach when properly deployed, light enough to move fast, heavy enough to hurt. But mostly it's unpredictable. Nobody trains against a belt. Huang picked it up, examined it with professional interest. Clever. Improvised? My grandmother's technique. Atlanta, Georgia, 1990s. She taught me, use what they won't expect. And now you bring that to Seoul. The third captain, silent until now, studied her carefully. To our world. I didn't ask to be brought into this world, Sable said evenly. But I'm here, so I adapt, I contribute, or I become a liability. Those are the options. And which do you choose? Huang asked. I choose to be the woman who walked into Baek Taemin's stronghold and made him nervous enough to request a meeting. That's not liability behavior. The door opened. Dae-jung entered, reading the room instantly. He caught Sable's eye. Everything okay? And she gave the slightest nod. He sat at the head of the table. I see you've met my wife. Your assessments. Huang spoke first. She's bold, possibly reckless, definitely capable. The young captain. She thinks tactically. The belt thing, it's smart, unexpected. The third, she fits. Not what I expected, but she fits. The fourth captain, who hadn't spoken yet, finally did. She's a risk. Americans don't understand our world. They bring chaos. Sable turned to him. You're Captain Park. You run the smuggling operations through Busan. 30 years in this life, 0 arrests, 3 wives, all Korean, and you think I'm chaos because I'm foreign. Park's eyes narrowed. I think you're chaos because you don't understand consequences. Really? Because last night's consequences were Baek's organization scared, his men humiliated, and his confidence in his invincibility shattered. Those consequences seem pretty strategic to me, until he retaliates and we're at war. We've been at war with Baek for 15 years, Sable countered. I just changed the terms. Instead of slow burn attrition, I made it personal, made it about respect. And respect is currency in this world, right? Park looked at Dae-jung. She speaks well, but talk is easy. Action proves. Then judge me on action, Sable said. 8 men defeated, Baek requesting dialogue, your operations untouched while I made enemies think twice about targeting this organization. That's not chaos, that's results. Hwang actually smiled. She's got fire, I like that. Fire burns allies too, Park warned. Not if it's controlled. Dae-jung's voice cut through the tension. Sable doesn't act alone, we strategize together. Last night was improvised. Going forward, we coordinate. So she's part of operational planning now? The young captain asked. She's my wife, my partner. Yes, she's part of planning. Dae-jung's tone left no room for argument. Any objections? Silence. Then Hwang shrugged. If she brings value, why not? We use every asset. Park still looked unconvinced, but nodded slowly. Fine, but first mistake that costs us, this experiment ends. Fair, Sable agreed. Same standard I'd hold anyone to. The meeting shifted to business, territory disputes, supply chains, legitimate fronts. Sable listened more than she spoke, learning the rhythm of their world. When she did contribute, it was precise observations about patterns, inefficiencies, opportunities. By the end of 2 hours, even Park was listening when she spoke. As they prepared to leave, Hwang approached her separately. Mrs. Kang, a word? Dae-jung nodded permission. They stepped aside. You impressed us tonight, but understand, this life consumes everyone it touches. You think you can stay clean, stay separate. You can't. The violence becomes normal. The moral lines blur. Are you ready for that? Sable met his eyes. Captain Hwang, I grew up in neighborhoods where violence was breakfast conversation. I fought my way through corporate America where they smiled while stabbing you. Seoul's underworld is just another battlefield with different weapons. I'm not naive. I'm prepared. Then welcome to the real family. He extended his hand. She shook it, feeling the calluses of a man who'd done violence personally, not just ordered it. Outside, in the car with Dae-jung, Sable finally relaxed. That went better than expected. Park still doesn't trust you. Park doesn't trust anyone, but he'll watch me, judge me, and eventually I'll prove myself. You're very confident. I'm very tired and running on adrenaline. Ask me tomorrow if I'm confident. Dae-jung laughed, real and warm. You were perfect in there, respectful but strong. You didn't shrink. I told you, I don't shrink. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Baek. Thursday lunch confirmed. Come alone. Proof of independence. She showed Dae-jung. His jaw tightened. He's testing us, trying to drive a wedge. So decline. Or, Sable considered, I go. Prove I can handle myself. Show him we're not afraid, but I record everything. Full transparency with you. That's dangerous. Partnership is dangerous. Marriage is dangerous. This whole life is dangerous. She turned to face him. But we agreed we do this together. That means trusting each other in dangerous situations. He studied her for a long moment, then, okay, Thursday, you meet Baek alone, but with trackers, recording devices, and a security team within 60 seconds response time. Deal. They drove through Seoul's night, planning for Thursday's meeting, for Baek's next move, for a future neither had imagined 3 months ago. The Curvy black woman from Atlanta and the frozen Korean Mafia boss, an unlikely alliance becoming something formidable. And somewhere in the darkness, Baek Taemin was making his own plans, underestimating them both one last time. Thursday arrived wrapped in autumn rain. Seoul's streets slick and reflective. Sable dressed carefully, not for intimidation, but for negotiation. Navy blazer, cream blouse, dark jeans. The belt. Always the belt. Dae-jung watched her prepare, tension coiled in his shoulders. They'd spent 2 days planning for every contingency. Microphone hidden in her watch, GPS tracker in her bracelet, panic button disguised as a ring. Security team positioned at the restaurant and within blocks. You don't have to do this, he said for the 3rd time that morning. Yes, I do. Baek's testing whether I'm independent or controlled. If I don't show, he wins that round. She turned from the mirror. Besides, I'm curious. What does a man like that want to say to me? Probably trying to recruit you against me. Then he's dumber than I thought. She kissed him quickly. 2 hours. I'll text every 30 minutes. If I miss a check-in, bring the cavalry. I'm bringing them anyway. They'll just stay invisible and less needed. The restaurant was understated elegance in Itaewon. Neutral territory. Public enough to discourage violence, private enough for honest conversation. Sable arrived exactly on time, a power move that said, I respect punctuality, not you. Bake sat alone in a corner booth, looking smaller in daylight than he had in the factory's shadows. He stood as she approached. Old world manners from a new world monster. Mrs. Kong, thank you for coming. Let's skip the pleasantries. You threatened me, I humiliated your men, and now you want conversation. What's the actual agenda? He smiled, appreciating directness. Sit, please. She did, but kept her back to the wall, exit visible in peripheral vision. Lessons from Daejeon. I underestimated you, Bake began. That was my first mistake in 15 years. I wanted to understand why. Because I'm a black woman in a Korean Mafia story. You thought I was decoration, arm candy, a weakness to exploit. Yes. His honesty surprised her. She tilted her head. And now? Now I think you're the most dangerous piece on the board, because you're unpredictable. You don't follow the rules because you don't know them, and that makes you chaos. Second person to call me chaos this week. I'm starting to think it's a compliment. It is and it isn't. Bake leaned forward. In our world, predictability is power. I know what Kong will do because I've fought him for 15 years. But you're a variable I can't calculate. That terrifies me. Good. But it also intrigues me. He signaled a server, ordered tea for both without asking her preference. A small power play. I've been thinking, what if we're fighting the wrong war? Meaning Kong and I have been locked in stalemate since 2010. We take territory, we lose territory. We bleed resources. Nothing changes. But you changed the game in one night. Sable sipped the tea that arrived. Green, expensive. So you want to hire me? I want to propose a partnership. You and me. She laughed. Genuine surprise. You're serious? Completely. Think about it. Kong is traditional, predictable, but you bring innovation, fresh thinking. Combine that with my resources and experience, and betray my husband. Yeah, hard pass. Is it betrayal if it brings peace? Bake's voice softened, almost reasonable. How many people have died in our war? How many families destroyed? You could end that, unite our organizations, stop the bleeding. Under your leadership, of course. Under shared leadership, you'd have real power, not just the illusion Kong gives you. Sable set down her cup carefully. You really think I'm that easy to manipulate? That I'd destroy my marriage for hypothetical power? I think you're ambitious, smart, and possibly tired of being the good wife while your husband makes all the real decisions. You know nothing about my marriage. You know Kong kept you separate from his operations until you forced your way in. I know Kong's captains questioned whether you belong. I know you fight for every scrap of respect in that world. Bake's eyes held calculated sympathy. I'm offering you respect automatically, partnership from day one. For a moment, Sable genuinely considered it. Not the offer, but the psychology behind it. Bake was skilled. He'd identified her pressure points. Respect, agency, belonging. In another life, another circumstance, this might have worked. You're good, she admitted. This recruitment pitch is really good. Appeal to my ambition, validate my struggles, offer easy solutions. Textbook manipulation. Is it manipulation if it's true? It's manipulation because it ignores one critical factor. I love my husband, not convenient alliance love. Real love, the kind where his success is my success, his enemies are my enemies. You can't buy or argue me out of that. Beck's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes acknowledged defeat on this angle. Loyalty. How refreshingly old-fashioned. Call it what you want. The answer is no. Then let me try a different approach. Honesty. He sat back. I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer. 6 months, maybe 8 if I'm lucky and treatment works. My organization will fracture when I'm gone because I never named a clear successor. Blood will flow. The whole city will destabilize. Sable studied him, seeing the truth in the subtle weight loss, the careful way he moved. I'm sorry. Don't be. I earned every cell of this cancer with my lifestyle choices, but I'm trying to manage my legacy. If you won't join me, then help me end this war cleanly. Negotiate a treaty. You and Kang on one side, me on the other. We divide territory, establish peace, and when I die, my lieutenants inherit stability instead of chaos. Why would you trust us to honor that treaty once you're gone? Because your husband is honorable, old school. If he gives his word, he keeps it. And you, Beck smiled slightly, you're practical. You'll see the economic sense in stability. This is why you really wanted to meet. Not recruitment, peace talks. Can't it be both? I try option A, recruitment. When that fails, as I suspected it would, option B, negotiation. He pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. Proposed territory divisions, asset allocations, timeline for implementation. Sable opened it, scanned the documents. Detailed, professional, genuine. You actually mapped this out. I've been planning my death for 8 months. Might as well do it thoroughly. Daizhong needs to see this. Of course, I'm not asking for your answer today. I'm opening a dialogue. Think about it. Discuss with your husband. My people will contact yours for formal negotiations if you're interested. Sable closed the folder. One question. Why me? Why not approach Daizhong directly? Because he would refuse on principle. Our history is too bloody. But you're new, untainted by 15 years of corpses. You can see the logic without the emotion. You think I have no emotion about people who threatened me? I think you're smart enough to separate personal feelings from strategic advantage. Am I wrong? She stood, tucking the folder under her arm. You're not wrong, but you're also not entirely right. I'll discuss this with my husband. No promises. That's all I ask. Beck stood as well, slightly unsteady, the cancer showing through. Mrs. Kang, regardless of what you decide, I respect you. You're the most interesting opponent I've faced in decades. Opponent, not partner, not ally. Good that we're clear. She walked out into Seoul's rain, security team materializing around her with professional discretion. In the car, she texted Daizhong, "Meeting done. Coming home. We need to talk." His response was immediate. "Are you safe?" Yes, but everything just became more complicated. The drive home felt longer than it was. Sable stared at the folder on her lap, mind racing through implications, possibilities, traps. Beck dying, his organization fracturing, the opportunity for peace or the risk of greater chaos. At the penthouse, Daizhong waited on the terrace, tension radiating from every line of his body. He pulled her close the moment she emerged from the elevator, checking her physically for harm. "I'm fine," she assured him. "Really, no threats, no violence, just conversation." What kind of conversation puts that look on your face? She showed him the folder. The kind where your mortal enemy offers you peace because he's dying and doesn't want his legacy to be eternal gang war. Daizhong's expression froze. He's dying? Pancreatic cancer. 6 to 8 months. Wants to negotiate a treaty before he's gone so the city doesn't explode in succession warfare. He took the folder, read through it carefully. Sable watched emotions flicker across his face. Satisfaction, suspicion, strategic calculation, something that might have been grief. You believe him? About the cancer? Yes, that's not something you fake. About wanting peace? I think he wants control over his ending, but whether peace is genuine or just another manipulation, I can't tell. Daizhong set down the folder, walked to the edge of the terrace. Rain misted across Seoul below them. 15 years, so many bodies, and he wants to end it with paperwork and handshakes. Is that so bad? It's suspicious. It's also logical. He's right. When he dies, his organization fragments. Multiple lieutenants will fight for control. Our operations will get caught in the crossfire. The whole city destabilizes. If we can avoid that with a treaty, you're actually considering this? I'm considering all angles. That's what you brought me into this world to do, right? Think strategically? He turned back to her. He tried to recruit you first, didn't he? Before offering peace. Yes. Offered me partnership, power, respect, everything he thought I couldn't get from you. And And I told him to go to hell. More politely than that, but the message was clear. She moved to stand beside him. Daejung, I'm not interested in Beck's organization. I'm interested in our future. And if that future can include less violence, fewer enemies, more stability, shouldn't we at least explore it? Peace with Beck feels like betraying everyone he's killed, or honoring them by making sure no one else dies in this war. She took his hand. I'm not saying trust him. I'm saying use him. Let him broker his treaty, divide the territories, establish whatever peace he needs for his legacy. Then when he's gone, we assess whether his successors honor it. If they don't, we respond. But we try. You really think it could work? I think we'd be idiots not to try. Worst case, we waste some time in negotiations and nothing changes. Best case, we end 15 years of warfare and position ourselves for expansion once he's dead and his organization is weakened. Daejung studied her. You've gotten very good at this very quickly. I'm a fast learner, and I'm married to an excellent teacher. He pulled her close, kissed her temple. Okay, we explore negotiations, but carefully. Paranoid level carefully. I wouldn't have it any other way. They stood together on the terrace, watching Seoul's endless lights blur through rain, planning for peace while preparing for war, because in their world, the two were always the same conversation. The negotiations took 3 weeks to organize. Neutral location, a conference room in a 5-star hotel neither organization owned. Security protocols that would make diplomats jealous. Lawyers, accountants, mediators, all the trappings of legitimacy wrapped around a conversation between criminals. Sable spent those 3 weeks learning everything about Beck's organization, his lieutenants, their loyalties, the succession candidates. She built profiles, identified weak points, mapped alliances. If they were walking into a trap, she wanted to see it coming. Daejung watched her work with mixed pride and concern. She'd transformed one corner of their penthouse into a command center. Maps, photos, documents covering the walls like she was hunting serial killers instead of planning treaty negotiations. You're obsessed, he observed one evening, finding her still working at midnight. I'm thorough, there's a difference. She pointed to a photo of Beck's second in command. Yoon Sang-min, 48. Been with Beck for 20 years, loyal but ambitious. When Beck dies, Yoon's the likely successor, but he has competition from Park Jae-won here. Another photo. Park's younger, more aggressive, controls the lucrative nightclub operations. Different philosophy from Yoon's conservative approach. So they'll fight each other for control. Exactly, which means our treaty isn't just with Beck, it's with whatever fractured organization comes after. We need clauses that survive succession, binding agreements that the next leadership has to honor or face consequences. Daejung sat beside her, studying the web she'd created. You've thought this through. I've thought through 6 different scenarios and we're only prepared for 4 of them. She rubbed her eyes, tired. Beck's smart. Dying doesn't make him stupid. He could be using these negotiations to identify our weaknesses, gather intelligence, set traps for after he's gone. Then why go through with it? Because the potential benefit outweighs the risk. If we can secure real peace, even temporary, we consolidate power while his organization falls apart. We become the stable option in Seoul. That's worth the gamble. When did you become such a strategist? Sable smiled. I've always been one. Corporate America taught me how to read power dynamics and exploit them. This is just the same game with higher stakes and more weapons. The morning of the first negotiation session, Sable dressed in what Daejung called her intimidation suit, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, with her belt as the accent piece. She looked like she owned boardrooms and broke them for fun. Ready? He asked as they prepared to leave. Define ready. My stomach's doing gymnastics, but my head's clear. That counts, right? That counts. They arrived at the hotel in separate cars again, maintaining the appearance of independent players. The conference room was antiseptic and neutral, designed to strip personality and create focus. Beck sat on one side with 4 of his people. Daejung and Sable took the other side with 3 of their captains. Lawyers flanked both parties like referees at a boxing match. Shall we begin? Beck looked thinner than 3 weeks ago, the cancer's work showing, but his eyes were sharp, missing nothing. 4 hours of brutal negotiation followed. Territory divisions argued down to street addresses. Asset allocations contested percentage by percentage. Timelines for implementation debated with lawyer precision. Sable took notes, asked questions that made Bake's people uncomfortable, identified contradictions in their proposals. She'd studied negotiation tactics for years in corporate settings. This was just higher stakes. District 7, she said during a particularly contentious exchange. You're proposing to keep all 4 blocks despite those areas generating minimal revenue. Why? Bake's lieutenant, Yoon, answered. Historical significance. We developed that territory 20 years ago. Historical significance doesn't pay bills. Those blocks are operating at a loss. She slid across a document. Our analysis shows you're subsidizing them through more profitable operations. That's not sustainable, especially with leadership transition coming. Yoon's face tightened. Bake actually smiled. She's right, Bake admitted. We're bleeding money in District 7 for pride. What's your proposal, Mrs. Kang? Split it. You keep 2 blocks with existing infrastructure. We develop the other 2 and share profits 60-40 in your favor for the first 3 years. After transition, it becomes 50-50. You get revenue from territory you're currently losing money on. We get expansion with built-in profit sharing. The room went silent. Even Dae-jung looked surprised. Yoon glanced at Bake, who nodded slowly. Acceptable. Draft the terms. They broke for lunch. In a private room, Dae-jung pulled Sable aside. That was brilliant. You just turned their weakness into our opportunity and made them thank us for it. Basic economics. Find the inefficiency, offer a solution that benefits both sides, frame it as partnership. She sipped water, hands shaking slightly now that the adrenaline was fading. How am I doing? You're doing what you do best, seeing patterns others miss. Their people hate me. Good. Fear and hate means respect in this world. The afternoon session continued the progress. By evening, they'd outlined a framework both sides could accept. Details would take weeks to finalize, but the foundation existed. As they prepared to leave, Bake requested a private word with Sable. Dae-jung's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Alone with Bake in the conference room, she waited for him to speak. You're wasted as a Mafia wife, he said finally. You should be running your own organization. I am. It's called partnership. Kang is lucky. He doesn't deserve you. That's not your judgment to make. Bake coughed, covering his mouth. When his hand came away, there was blood on the tissue. He looked at it matter-of-factly. Time's shorter than I thought. We need to accelerate the timeline. How short? 3 months, maybe 4. He met her eyes. I'm telling you this because you'll plan better knowing the truth. My people will panic when I'm gone. They'll fight. Your treaty needs to account for chaos. Why tell me and not my husband? Because you'll actually listen and adapt. Kang would see it as manipulation. You see it as data. Sable considered. What do you need from us? Agree to protect Yoon during the transition. He's the stable choice, but Park will challenge him violently. If you publicly back Yoon, Park might back down. And if he doesn't, then you'll have to eliminate Park. But that happens anyway once fighting starts. This way, you choose the timing. You're asking us to interfere in your succession. I'm asking you to prevent a war that kills hundreds of people. Isn't that what this treaty is about? She studied him, dying, desperate, but still calculating. I'll discuss it with Dae-jung. No promises. That's all I ask. Thank you for listening, Mrs. Kang. Outside, Dae-jung waited with barely controlled tension. In the car, she told him everything. He wants us to choose his successor, Dae-jung said flatly. That's insane. That's strategic. If we back Yoon, his transition is smoother. If we don't, we get civil war in Bake's organization and collateral damage everywhere. Sable watched Seoul slide past the windows. He's right. We're making this choice either way. This way, we make it deliberately. Do you trust his assessment of Yoon versus Park? I trust that Yoon's conservative approach is better for our treaty than Park's aggressive style. Beyond that, I trust nothing. They rode in silence, processing implications, calculating risks. At a red light, Dae-jung spoke quietly. 3 months ago, you were reviewing shipping manifests and complaining about Seoul's coffee culture. Now you're negotiating Mafia treaties and choosing successors for rival organizations. How does that feel? Sable considered. Terrifying, exhilarating, right. All of that at once. Any regrets? About marrying you? Never. About entering this world? Ask me when we see if this treaty actually works. The light changed. They drove on, toward a future neither could predict, but both were committed to building together. 8 weeks into negotiations, the treaty framework was nearly complete. Territory maps finalized, profit-sharing agreements drafted, transition protocols established. Lawyers on both sides worked overtime translating criminal enterprise into legally enforceable contracts that would never see a legitimate courtroom. Beck's health deteriorated visibly. He missed 2 sessions, sent Yoon instead. The third time he appeared, he moved like a ghost of himself, skin gray, movements painful, but his mind stayed sharp. Final clause, he announced during what everyone knew would be his last session. Succession endorsement. When I die, your organization publicly supports Yoon Song-min as my successor. In exchange, Yoon guarantees the treaty terms for 5 years, regardless of market changes. Dae-jung looked at Sable. She'd spent 6 weeks analyzing Yoon, Park, and the other potential successors. She nodded fractionally. Agreed, Dae-jung said, with one addition. If Yoon fails to maintain order within 60 days of transition, we reserve the right to renegotiate with whoever emerges as leader. Acceptable. Beck signed the document with hands that shook slightly. Done. After 15 years. Done. They shook hands, Beck and Dae-jung, an image that would have been impossible a year ago. Photographers captured it for the organization's records, proof of peace or evidence of conspiracy, depending on who was looking. As everyone filed out, Beck caught Sable's arm gently. Walk with me? She glanced at Dae-jung, who nodded permission. They walked slowly through the hotel's garden, Beck moving carefully, breathing deliberately. I'm dying faster than expected, he said without preamble. Days, not weeks. I wanted to thank you. For what? For seeing me as a person, not just an enemy. For negotiating honestly. For giving me the gift of ending this war before I end. He stopped by a fountain, staring at water he wouldn't see much longer. I've done terrible things, Mrs. Kang. Built an empire on violence and fear. But this treaty, it's the one good thing I'll leave behind. Sable felt unexpected compassion. What will you do with your remaining time? Go home, say goodbyes, try to die with something resembling dignity. He turned to her. Watch Yoon. He's honorable, but weak. Park will test him immediately. Your backing might not be enough. Then what do you suggest? Be ready to act decisively, violently if necessary. The first challenge to Yoon sets the tone for everything else. You're asking me to potentially kill Park. I'm asking you to protect what we built. How you do that is your choice. He pulled out a small object from his pocket, a jade pendant. For you, my grandmother's. She was Korean, my grandfather American military. I grew up between 2 worlds, never fully belonging to either. Like you. Sable accepted the pendant, surprised by the gesture. I don't know what to say. Say you'll remember that not everything in this life is black and white, that enemies can become allies, that peace is worth fighting for. He smiled, tired, and say you'll continue being exactly who you are. Seoul needs people like you. They walked back in silence. At the hotel entrance, Beck bowed, a gesture of respect she returned. Then he was gone, driven away toward whatever ending he'd prepared. What did he say? Dae-jung asked when she rejoined him. Goodbye. She showed him the pendant, and warning, Park's going to move fast when Beck dies. Then we prepare faster. They spent the next 2 weeks fortifying their position. Meetings with allies, quiet warnings to neutral parties, strategic positioning of resources. Sable coordinated logistics while Dae-jung handled the violent groundwork. She'd become his operational partner in truth, not just title. Captains now brought problems to both of them. Huang in particular seemed to respect her tactical mind. "Mrs. Kang, you've got instincts for this. Natural talent. Natural trauma response. I spent my childhood reading dangerous situations. This is just scaling up." The call came at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. Baek Tai-min was dead. Cancer finally claiming what violence never could. The city held its breath. At 6 a.m., Yoon Song-min contacted us requesting an immediate meeting. At 7 a.m., Park Jae-won made his move, seizing 2 of Baek's key warehouses with 30 armed men. "It's starting," Sable watched news reports from the penthouse. "Exactly like Baek predicted. Yoon's asking for our help," Daejung reported, phone to his ear. "Park's claiming Baek chose him verbally before dying. That's a lie. Baek was very clear about Yoon. Doesn't matter. Park has guns and territory. That's truth enough in our world." Sable stood, mind racing through scenarios. "We need to respond today, show strength. If we wait, Park establishes legitimacy through possession." "What do you suggest?" She walked to the map wall she'd maintained throughout negotiations. "Park took 2 warehouses, both in District 9. He's overextended, trying to look strong but actually creating vulnerability. If we hit both locations simultaneously with overwhelming force, we break his momentum before it builds. That's direct warfare. Could violate the treaty. The treaty was with Baek. Park is acting against Baek's explicit succession plan. We're enforcing the treaty by supporting Yoon." She traced the attack pattern on the map. 2 teams, simultaneous insertion, secure the warehouses, hold them for Yoon. Message sent. Park doesn't get to rewrite agreements with violence. Daejung studied the map, then her. "You want to lead one of the teams. I want to finish what I started. Park won't expect me. That's advantage." "Absolutely not. Too dangerous. Everything we do is dangerous, but I've proven I can handle myself. Against 8 men in a factory, not 30 trained fighters in a fortified warehouse." Sable turned to face him fully. "Daejung, I need to do this. Not for ego, for credibility. Your captains still question whether I'm serious or playing it gangster. I prove myself here, that question ends. Or you die and the question becomes irrelevant. I won't die. I'll have a full team, proper weapons, the advantage of surprise, and I'll have my belt." She smiled slightly. "It's proven very effective." He wanted to refuse. She saw it in every line of his body, but he also saw her determination, her logic, her need to establish herself beyond doubt. "You take the easier target," he finally conceded. "Warehouse B, smaller, fewer defenders, and Huang goes with you. Deal." 4 hours later, Sable stood in tactical gear that felt surreal and right simultaneously. Kevlar vest, combat boots, weapons she'd trained with over the past weeks, and her belt, modified now with a reinforced buckle that could break bones. Huang briefed the team. 12 defenders estimated. Our advantage is speed and surprise. Mrs. Kang leads entry. I cover. Teams 2 and 3 secure perimeter and exits. Questions? A few glances at Sable, skepticism mixed with curiosity. She met each look directly. I know what you're thinking. The boss's wife playing soldier. But I'm not here for show. I'm here because Park needs to understand that this organization doesn't have weak links. Anyone comes at us, they get all of us. That message starts now. Huang nodded approval. You heard her. Let's move. The warehouse sat dark and hostile in District 9's industrial maze. Park's people had established defensive positions but weren't expecting immediate response. Their mistake. Sable's team inserted through the south entrance Huang had identified as weak. They moved in practiced formation, clearing corners, communicating with hand signals she'd learned. First contact came fast. A guard turning a corner, seeing them, reaching for his radio. Sable's belt snapped out, leather wrapping around his wrist, yanking the radio free. Huang's team secured him silently. They pushed deeper. The main floor opened up. Crates, machinery, shadows. Movement ahead. Contact, Huang whispered. 6 visible, more probably hidden. Sable assessed the space. We can't go quiet anymore. Overwhelming force, now. She stood, voice carrying. Park's people, you're in violation of treaty agreements. Surrender the warehouse and leave unharmed, or we take it by force. 10 seconds to decide. Silence. Then gunfire. Her team returned fire, controlled and devastating. Sable moved through the chaos, belt in one hand, weapon in the other. She'd trained for this. Dae-jung had insisted on it once she committed to operational involvement. A defender charged from her right. She pivoted, belt cracking across his face, weapon following up with a stock strike to the ribs. He went down. She kept moving. The fight was brutal and quick. Park's men were trained but surprised, defending territory they'd just seized and didn't fully control. Sable's team had momentum and purpose. 12 minutes, that's how long it took to secure Warehouse B. Sable stood in the center of the captured space, breathing hard, checking her team for injuries. Minor wounds, nothing critical. Park's people were restrained and disarmed. Status? She asked Huang. Building secured. Dae-jung's team reports Warehouse A is ours too. Park's retreating to his nightclub stronghold. Good. Hold this position. Send half Park's people back to him with a message. Forfeit now or we take everything. Personal message from you? Sable walked to the ranking defender they'd captured, crouched to his eye level. Tell Park that Sable Washington Kang doesn't appreciate people who break their word. Tell him that we enforced a treaty out of respect for a dying man's wishes. And tell him if he continues this power grab, I'll personally ensure he regrets it. The man nodded, terrified and awed. Outside, dawn was breaking. Sable stripped off the tactical gear, accepting water from Huang. You did good in there, he said. Real good.
Team's impressed. Team doubted me. Team's not doubting now. Her phone buzzed. Dae-jung. Status? Warehouse secured. No casualties our side. Where are you? Heading to you. Stay there. He arrived 20 minutes later, emerging from an SUV with that particular tension that meant he'd been terrified for her despite trusting her capability. He pulled her aside, checked her over for injuries despite her protests. I'm fine. Better than fine. We won. You could have died, but I didn't. And now Park knows we're serious. Both of us. Dae-jung looked at the warehouse, at her, at the future they were building. You're really committed to this life, aren't you? Not just tolerating it, actually committed. I'm committed to us. This life is part of that package. He kissed her, hard and relieved and proud. Okay, then we see this through, together. News of the warehouse captures spread fast. By noon, Park Jae-won had requested negotiations. By evening, he'd formally conceded to Yoon's leadership in exchange for keeping his nightclub operations. The succession crisis was over before it truly began. Yoon contacted Sable personally. You saved my life today. Probably hundreds of others. The treaty holds because of what you did. The treaty holds because Beck built something worth preserving. We just enforced it. However you frame it, I'm grateful. Your organization has my loyalty. That night, alone with Dae-jung in the penthouse, Sable finally allowed herself to feel the weight of what she'd done. Led a strike team, secured territory, prevented a war. I'm not who I was 3 months ago, she said quietly. No, you're who you needed to become. Does that scare you? Sometimes, but it also fills me with pride. You're extraordinary, Sable. You've taken to this world like you were born for it. She laughed, short and sharp. Born for organized crime. My grandmother would be so proud. She'd be proud of you, leading, protecting, building something stable from chaos. Is that what we're doing? Building? Every day. Together. They stood on the terrace, watching Seoul's infinite lights, knowing tomorrow would bring new challenges, but facing them as what they'd truly become, partners in every sense, building an empire on intelligence, strength, and the unwavering belief that they were stronger together than apart. And somewhere in the city, in territory now peaceful because of treaties built on wisdom rather than just violence, people went about their lives slightly safer because a curvy black woman from Atlanta had decided that her belt was more than an accessory. It was a statement, a weapon, and a symbol that underestimation was the deadliest mistake anyone could make. Peace lasted 6 weeks. long enough for treaties to feel real, for routines to establish, for Sable to believe maybe they'd actually achieved something lasting. She should have known better. The first warning came from an unexpected source, Park Jae-won himself. He requested a meeting with Sable specifically, not Daijung, not Yoon, but her. That alone set off alarms. "It's a trap," Daijung said, flatly when she told him. "Probably, but I'm curious what kind of trap. Curiosity is how people die in this business. So is ignoring warning signs." Sable was already planning the meeting parameters. Public location, full security, recording everything. If Park wants to talk, we listen. Information is advantage. You've gotten very comfortable with risk. I've gotten comfortable with calculated risk. There's a difference. They met at a coffee shop in Gangnam. Neutral, public, cameras everywhere. Sable sat across from him, Huang visible through the window outside. "Mrs. Kong, thank you for meeting me. You asked specifically for me. That makes me nervous." Park smiled. No warmth. "As it should. I'm here to warn you." "Warn me about what?" "Yoon's not what you think. The treaty you're protecting, it's built on lies." Sable sipped her coffee, giving herself time to process. "Explain." "Beck didn't die of cancer." "Well, he did, but faster than nature intended. Someone helped him along." "That's a serious accusation." "It's the truth. Yoon poisoned him. Slow-acting, untraceable, made the cancer kill him in months instead of years. All so Yoon could take power while the treaty was fresh and you'd support him." "You have proof?" Park slid a folder across the table. Medical records, laboratory reports, testimony from a nurse who had attended Beck in his final weeks. It looked legitimate, but Sable had learned to trust nothing at face value. "Why bring this to me instead of authorities?" "Because authorities don't care about dead criminals, but you care about being used. You built that treaty in good faith. Yoon manipulated all of you." Sable studied him. "What do you want, Park?" "Alliance. You and Kang help me remove Yoon. I honor the treaty properly. No manipulation, no lies. And if I believe you're the liar here, using forged documents to create conflict, then verify it independently. Test the samples. Interview the nurse. The truth stands up to investigation." He stood to leave. "I give you 3 days to confirm what I've told you. After that, I move against Yoon with or without your support. But I'd prefer with." He walked out, leaving the folder and a dozen new questions. Sable immediately called a meeting with Daejung, Wang, and their intelligence chief. They spent 6 hours analyzing Park's evidence. "It's convincing," the intelligence chief admitted, "but it could be fabricated. These days, documents can be made to show anything." "What about the nurse?" Sable asked. "We've located her. She's willing to talk, but she's terrified. Says if Yoon finds out she spoke to Park, she's dead. Then we talk to her tonight, quietly. Get her story before Yoon knows we're investigating." Daejung watched her orchestrate the operation. "You believe Park?" "I believe Park wants Yoon's position. Whether he's telling the truth or creating truth is what we need to determine." The nurse, a middle-aged woman named Lee Sun-hee, met them in a safe house at midnight. She was shaking, chain-smoking, barely holding together. "I shouldn't be here," she kept saying. "I shouldn't have talked to anyone." Sable sat across from her, voice calm. "Sun-hee, I need to know the truth. Did Yoon poison Beck?" Tears streamed down the woman's face. "Yes, I saw him add something to Mr. Beck's IV. When I asked, he said it was pain medication, but I checked later. It wasn't. It was accelerating the cancer's spread." "Why didn't you report it?" "To who? The police? They don't care about gang leaders. Beck's own people? Yoon was second in command. Who would believe a nurse over him?" "But you told Park." "Park approached me, offered protection and money. I thought maybe he could actually stop Yoon." She looked at Sable desperately. "You have to understand, Mr. Beck was dying anyway. Yoon just sped it up, made it months instead of years. Is that really murder?" "Yes," Sable said quietly. "That's exactly murder." They left Sun-hee in protective custody and convened an emergency meeting of their leadership. The evidence was damning. Yoon had manipulated them all. "We have to move against him," Wang said. "He violated every principle of the treaty by murdering Beck."
Or we're falling for Park's manipulation, getting us to destroy Yoon so Park can take power. Either way, we're pawns. Sable stood, walked to her ever-present map wall. Option 3. We confront Yoon directly. Give him a chance to explain or confess. Then we make our decision based on his response. That tips our hand, Wang warned. Good. I'm tired of games. Let's force truth into the open and deal with consequences. They summoned Yoon to a meeting the next evening. His face when he arrived told Sable everything. He knew they knew, and he'd prepared for this moment. Before you accuse me, Yoon said, sitting down calmly, let me explain. I'm listening, Sable replied. Beck was dying, slowly, painfully. Towards the end, he begged me to end it. Make it faster. He didn't want months of degradation. He wanted to go while he could still think clearly, still control his legacy. So you poisoned him. So I granted him mercy, with his full consent and blessing. Dae-jung leaned forward. The nurse says you acted alone. The nurse didn't hear our private conversations. Beck asked me to keep it secret. Thought if people knew he'd requested accelerated death, it would undermine his image. I honored that request. Convenient. Truth often is. Yoon met each of their eyes. I did what a dying man asked. I won't apologize for mercy, but I understand if you see it as betrayal. Sable watched him carefully. He believed what he was saying. Whether it was true or elaborate self-justification was harder to determine. Park's moving against you, Sable said, using this as justification to break the succession agreement. I know. He's been consolidating support for a week. He'll attack within days. And what do you want from us? I want you to honor our treaty, support the succession Beck chose, regardless of how his death was managed. Or, Yoon paused, let Park take over and renegotiate everything. Your choice. After he left, they debated for hours. Trust Yoon's mercy-killing story? Back Park's coup? Stay neutral and let them fight? Sable felt the weight of decision like physical pressure. This is what Beck warned me about. Days, not weeks. Park testing Yoon immediately. We're living his prediction. So what's your call? Dae-jung asked. She thought about the treaty, the peace they'd built, the lives saved by avoiding war. We honor our commitment to Yoon, not because we trust him completely, but because changing horses midstream creates chaos. We stabilize first, investigate properly later. If Yoon proves untrustworthy after we've secured peace, we deal with him then. You're choosing the devil we know, Huang observed. I'm choosing continuity and giving mercy the benefit of doubt. Park might be telling the truth, but he's definitely seeking power. Yoon might have crossed ethical lines, but he maintained the treaty. In a world without perfect choices, I pick imperfect stability over certain chaos. The decision made, they moved quickly. Public statement supporting Yoon's leadership. Private message to Park. Stand down or face consequences. Mobilization of their forces in case Park ignored the warning. Park ignored the warning. 3 days later, he attacked 4 of Yoon's operations simultaneously. Not warehouses this time. Civilian fronts. Restaurants, nightclubs, legitimate businesses caught in gang crossfire. He's forcing our hand, Dae-jung said, watching news reports of the attacks. We can't protect Yoon without direct intervention now. Sable felt cold fury building. He's killing civilians to make a point. That's not power play, that's terrorism. So how do we respond? She looked at him, then at the map, then at her belt hanging by the door, worn from 6 months of becoming a symbol. We end this, tonight, decisively. Park wants war, we give him total defeat instead. What are you thinking? His nightclub stronghold, the one he kept in the succession agreement, that's where he's operating from, where his command center is. We take it, we decapitate his operation completely. Huang spoke up. That's his most fortified position. 60 defenders minimum, weapons stockpiles, reinforced structure. We'd need a full-scale assault. Then we plan a full-scale assault. Sable's voice held no doubt. I'm tired of half measures. Park started this by murdering Baek. He escalated by attacking civilian targets. We finish it by removing him from the board permanently. Daejung recognized the look on her face, the same expression she'd worn walking into Bake's factory 6 months ago. Determination mixed with cold calculation. "Okay," he said, "but we do this right. Full planning, overwhelming force, minimal collateral. If we're going to war, we win it absolutely." They spent 18 hours planning the assault. Sable coordinated logistics, Huang handled tactical operations, Daejung managed the political angles. Every detail mattered: entry points, timing, rules of engagement, and at the center of it all, Sable's role. She would lead the primary assault team, not because she had to, but because she needed to. This was her commitment fully realized. No more half-in. She was part of this organization, and organizations led from the front. "I'm going with you," Daejung stated when she outlined her role. "No, you're too valuable. If something goes wrong, then we both fall or neither does. Partnership, remember?" She wanted to argue but saw the iron in his expression. Together then, always. The assault was scheduled for 2 a.m., when the nightclub was closed, but Park's command staff would be present. 30 of their best operators, split into 3 teams. Sable and Daejung leading Alpha Team through the main entrance, 2 supporting teams securing exits and preventing escape. The night before, Sable stood on their penthouse terrace, looking out at Seoul's lights. Daejung joined her, silent companionship. "Scared?" asked he. "Terrified, exhilarated, certain. All of it. You don't have to do this. We can send others. I know, but I need to. For me, to prove to myself this isn't just talk and planning. I can execute. You've proven that already. Not at this scale. Tomorrow I either cement my place in this world or die trying. There's no middle ground left." He took her hand. "Then we cement it, together, and we come home to build something lasting from this chaos. Promise?" "Promise." They stood together, 2 unlikely partners facing an uncertain future, bound by choice and commitment that went deeper than contracts or treaties. Whatever happened tomorrow would define them and redefine Seoul's underworld forever. 2 a.m., Seoul's District 5, where nightlife died and shadows ruled. Park's nightclub, Club Exodus, sat dark and hostile. 4 stories of reinforced concrete and bad decisions. Sable crouched in the tactical van 2 blocks away, checking her gear for the 3rd time. Kevlar vest, tactical belt, weapons, communications, and her original belt, the Hermes that started everything, strapped around her waist like a talisman. Daejung sat beside her, silent and focused. Around them, 30 operators prepared with professional calm. This was it. No more planning, no more delays. Tonight, they ended Park's ambition permanently. Alpha Team status. Huang's voice crackled through comms. "Ready," Sable confirmed. "Bravo Team ready." "Charlie Team in position." Huang's final check. "Remember, Park alive if possible. Everyone else, defensive force only unless they engage. We are not here to massacre. We are here to remove a threat and send a message. Execute in 60 seconds. Sable's heart hammered. She'd done combat before, but nothing this large, this planned. This was warfare, not a fight. Daejung caught her eye, nodded. "We've got this." She nodded back. "Together. Execute." Alpha Team moved fast through the nightclub's main entrance. The front door was reinforced, but they'd planned for that. Breaching charge, controlled explosion, entry in the smoke and confusion. Inside was chaos instantly. Park's defenders scrambled from surprise, reaching for weapons, shouting warnings. Sable's team moved in practiced formation, clearing rooms, securing threats. She spotted a defender raising a shotgun at Huang's back. Her belt snapped out instinctively, leather wrapping around the barrel, yanking it aside. The shot went wild. Huang spun, neutralized the threat. They pushed deeper, heading for the 3rd floor where intelligence said Park's command center operated. Resistance intensified. These were Park's personal guards, better trained, more loyal. Gunfire erupted. Sable took cover behind an overturned table, returning fire with controlled bursts she'd learned over months of training. This was real. Lives depended on her accuracy, her calm, her leadership. "Bravo Team, you're clear to advance," she called into comms, coordinating the assault even while under fire. "Charlie, seal the north exit. Don't let anyone out." Zheng fought beside her, moving like he'd been born to this violence. Together, they cleared a path to the stairwell. Third floor, heavier resistance. Park had prepared for assault, created defensive positions. The fight turned brutal. Close quarters, hand-to-hand when ammunition ran low. Sable found herself facing 3 defenders in a hallway too narrow for guns. Her belt became her weapon, whipping, binding, striking with the buckle. She'd trained for this, but training and execution were different animals. Adrenaline, fear, determination all mixed into a clarity that felt like slow motion. One defender went down to a belt strike across the throat. Second, to a sweep and knockout. Third, she disarmed and restrained with leather binding his wrists. "Clear," she called, breathing hard. They reached the command center door, reinforced steel, keypad lock. Zheng placed a charge while Sable covered the corridor. The explosion rocked the building. Smoke billowed. They pushed through into a room filled with monitors, maps, communication equipment, and Park Jae-won himself, standing behind a desk with a pistol aimed at the door. "Far enough," he said calmly. "I was wondering which of you would lead the assault. Should have bet on the wife." Sable kept her weapon trained on him. "It's over, Park. Your people are subdued. Buildings secure. Lower your weapon." "Or what? You'll shoot? We both know you're not a killer, Mrs. Kang. You're a consultant playing gangster. You killed civilians tonight. Innocent people caught in your ego tantrum. That makes you a terrorist, not a gang leader." Semantics. In our world, collateral damage is called Tuesday. Park's smile was cold. "But I'll give you credit. You've got courage, walking in here, leading this assault. More spine than most men I know. Last chance, weapon down." "I don't think so. See, if I surrender, I'm dead anyway. Yoon will have me killed to prevent future challenges. So why not go out fighting? Take a few of you with me." His finger tightened on the trigger. Sable saw it happening, time slowing to terrible clarity. He was going to shoot. Zheng was diving to cover her. She was moving, belt already uncoiling from pure reflex. 3 things happened simultaneously. Park fired. The bullet meant for Sable's chest caught Zheng's shoulder as he shielded her. He went down hard. Sable's belt snapped out with every ounce of strength and fury she possessed. The buckle caught Park's wrist, shattering bone. His gun clattered away. And Huang, entering from a side door they'd missed, put 2 rounds into Park's chest. Center mass. Professional. Fatal. Park dropped, eyes wide with surprise that he was dying, that it had ended like this. Sable didn't care. She was on her knees beside Zheng, hands pressing his shoulder where blood pulsed dark and steady. "Stay with me," she commanded, voice breaking. "You don't get to die. Not tonight. Not ever." His eyes found hers, pain-clouded but aware. "Park, dead. It's over. But you need to stay conscious. Medical's coming." "Did we win?" "We won. Completely. Now stop talking and breathe." Wang was on comms calling for emergency medical. Sable kept pressure on the wound, feeling Zheng's life pulse against her palms, refusing to let go. "Partnership. Till death do us part. Not today. You promised me we'd come home together, so you're keeping that promise." He smiled slightly, fading. "Bossy. You married a bossy woman. Deal with the consequences."
The medics arrived, took over, loaded Zheng on a stretcher. Sable followed, leaving Wang to secure the scene and process the aftermath. In the ambulance racing toward the hospital, she held Zheng's hand, watching monitors that measured his survival in digital readouts. The bullet had missed major arteries. He'd live, but he'd taken it for her, thrown himself into harm's way without hesitation. "Why did you do that?" she asked quietly. "Because you matter more," he managed through pain medication starting to kick in. "Organization can replace me, can't replace you. That's the stupidest thing you've ever said, and I'm telling you this every day for the rest of your life." Looking forward to it. At the hospital, surgeons took him immediately. Sable waited in a private room Wang had arranged, still in tactical gear, hands still bloody, coming down from adrenaline into exhausted clarity. They'd won. Park was dead. His organization would fracture and be absorbed. The treaty would hold. Yoon's position was secure. Everything they'd fought for was accomplished. But the cost.
Dae-jung bleeding, taking a bullet meant for her, showing that his love wasn't words but action. Wong arrived with updates. Building secure, 23 of Park's people in custody, the rest scattered. Intelligence recovered from the command center will keep us busy for months. It's a complete victory, Mrs. Kang. Is it? My husband's in surgery, with minor injuries that'll heal completely. He'll be back to running operations in a week. Wong sat across from her. You led this assault perfectly, coordinated 3 teams, adapted to changing conditions, achieved objectives with minimal casualties on our side. The captains are calling this Sable's victory. You've earned respect nobody can question now. She looked at her hands, still shaking slightly from adrenaline, still stained with her husband's blood. I don't feel victorious. I feel exhausted and terrified and relieved all at once. That's how real victory feels. Not clean or simple, just necessary and costly and ultimately worth it. The surgeon emerged 4 hours later. He's stable. Bullet removed, damage repaired, no complications. He'll need rest and physical therapy, but full recovery expected. Sable nearly collapsed with relief. Can I see him? He's still sedated, but you can sit with him. She did, pulling a chair beside his hospital bed, watching him sleep off surgery and trauma. In the harsh fluorescent light, he looked vulnerable, human, mortal. Not the frozen Mafia boss, but just a man who'd loved her enough to stop a bullet. When he woke 6 hours later, first light filtering through the windows, his eyes found her immediately. You stayed. Of course I stayed. Where else would I be? Running the organization, consolidating our victory, doing the 100 things that need doing. Wong's handling it. My place is here. He reached for her hand, grip weak but determined. We did it. We actually did it. You did it. Took a bullet and survived to brag about it. We. Partnership. You led the assault. I provided dramatic sacrifice. Team effort. She laughed despite everything. Only you would make getting shot sound like strategic planning. It worked, didn't it? They sat in comfortable silence, watching Seoul wake up to a city slightly more peaceful because of their violence, slightly more stable because of their commitment. What happens now? Sable asked eventually. Now we build. The treaty holds. We've eliminated the main threat to it. Yoon owes us everything. We consolidate power, expand operations, maybe even go partially legitimate, create something lasting, with you recovering for weeks, with you leading while I recover. The organization trusts you now, respects you. You've proven yourself beyond any doubt. I just wanted to protect what we'd built, and you did, spectacularly. He shifted, wincing at the movement. I've been thinking about succession, about the future. If something happens to me, nothing's happening to you. But if it did, I want you leading, not temporarily, permanently. You're the strongest person in this organization. Sable stared at him. You can't be serious. Completely serious. You've earned it. Led an assault, negotiated treaties, outmaneuvered rivals. The captains follow you. You've got tactical brilliance and strategic vision. Why wouldn't I name you successor? Because I'm an outsider, an American, a woman, a black woman in Korean Mafia business, all of which makes you underestimated, which makes you dangerous. The perfect combination. He squeezed her hand. Think about it. Don't answer now, but know that my will is already updated. If I die, everything goes to you. She didn't know how to respond to that. This man who'd been frozen for a decade, who'd built walls around his heart until she accidentally demolished them, was now trusting him with his entire life's work. I love you, she said, instead of arguing. Stupidly, completely, probably unwisely given our profession. But I love you. Good. Because I love you too. And that's why I trust you with everything. The next weeks were recovery, consolidation, and transformation. Dae-jung healed, while Sable ran operations with Wong's support. The captains accepted her authority without question. She'd earned it in blood and tactical brilliance. Yoon honored the treaty meticulously, strengthened by their support and grateful for their intervention. Park's organization dissolved, its pieces absorbed by Yoon and a few neutral players. Peace held, fragile but real. Sable adapted to leadership, discovering she had instincts for it, managing people, arbitrating disputes, making hard decisions that affected lives. She was good at it, terrifyingly good. 3 months after the assault, with Dae-jung back to full strength, They stood together on their penthouse terrace, watching Seoul's endless lights. "You've changed this city," Daejung observed. 6 months ago, it was gang war and chaos. Now, actual cooperation between organizations, a treaty that's holding. Stability. We changed it. Together. But you were the catalyst, the fresh perspective that saw possibilities instead of just grudges. Sable thought about that. About walking into Bake's factory with just a belt and audacity. About negotiating treaties and leading assaults and becoming someone she'd never imagined. "I used to think I was playing at this," she admitted. "Consultant pretending to be gangster. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being pretend. This is who I am now. Regret it? Not even a little bit. This city, this life, you. It's where I belong. Took coming to Seoul to find that out, but here we are." "Here we are," he echoed, pulling her close, "building an empire on intelligence, strategy, and the terrifying effectiveness of a well-used belt." She laughed. "That should not have worked as well as it did. But it did, because you made it work. You took something ordinary and turned it into a symbol. That's power." They stood together, partners in every sense, watching their city settle into peace they'd fought for and built from violence and vision. And somewhere in Seoul's maze of light and shadow, people who doubted her, underestimated her, thought she was weakness disguised as strength, those people had learned. You grab the wrong woman, you get consequences. You threaten her, she shows up. You fight her, she wins. And if you're very unlucky, you discover that the curvy black woman with the designer belt isn't decoration or liability or easy target. She's the most dangerous player on the board, and she's just getting started. 6 months after Park's death, Seoul's underworld had settled into a new equilibrium. The treaty held stronger than anyone expected. Yoon ran his organization with cautious competence. Smaller operators respected new boundaries. Violence was down 40%, not eliminated, never eliminated in their world, but reduced to manageable levels. Sable stood in what used to be a conference room and was now her personal office within Kang Enterprises' legitimate front. Maps still covered one wall, but they showed business expansion now, not just territorial control. She'd pushed the organization toward legitimate operations, real estate, entertainment, technology investment. Wash the money clean and build something sustainable. Huang entered without knocking, a privilege she'd granted him after the assault. "Mrs. Kang, we have a situation." She looked up from financial projections. "Defined situation. Bake's daughter. She's returned from studying abroad. Wants to meet with you." Sable felt the pieces clicking into place. Bake had mentioned a daughter once during negotiations, sent away years ago to keep her separate from his world. What does she want? She says she knows her father was murdered. She wants justice. He was dying anyway. The poisoning just accelerated. She doesn't care about nuance. She wants someone to pay for interfering with his natural death, and she's looking at Yoon. Sable sat back, feeling the familiar weight of decisions that affected lives. How old is she? 24. American educated, business degree, and from what our intelligence says, she's been quietly building support among her father's old guard, people who resent Yoon's leadership. Another succession crisis. Potentially. If she challenges Yoon, the treaty's in danger. Park proved that much. Sable stood, walked to her map wall, set up a meeting, just her and me, private. I want to understand what she actually wants before this escalates. Boss won't like you meeting potential threats alone. She smiled slightly at boss. They'd started using it for both her and Daejung interchangeably, acknowledging the dual leadership. Boss trusts my judgment. Besides, if Bake's daughter wanted me dead, she'd have moved already. She wants something else. The meeting was arranged for a neutral cafe 2 days later. Bake's daughter, introduced as Emily, her American name, was striking and composed. She had her father's calculating eyes, but her mother's softness around the edges. Dangerous combination. "Mrs. Kang, thank you for meeting me. Emily, I'm sorry about your father. He was a complicated man, but he loved you very much." Emily's expression flickered. Surprise, grief, control. "Did he talk about me?" "During negotiations. He mentioned sending you away to give you a normal life, keep you separate from his world. Yet here I am, pulled back into it." Emily ordered tea methodically. I know you didn't kill my father. I know Yoon did. What I want to know is why you're protecting his murderer. Sable had prepared for this question. Because your father asked me to. His last conversations with me were about ensuring Yoon's succession, preventing the chaos that would follow if Park took over. He wanted peace more than vengeance. My father would never ask for his own death to be accelerated. He was in incredible pain, losing his mind to morphine. Yoon claims your father requested mercy. I can't prove or disprove that, but I can tell you the choice was honor Beck's explicit succession plan or allow civil war. I chose peace. And my father's justice? Your father got the justice he architected. His treaty working, his organization stable, his enemy Park defeated. That was his justice. Emily studied her, eerily reminiscent of Beck's calculating stare. You're very good at framing moral compromise as strategic necessity. I'm very good at surviving in a world that wants me dead or controlled. Framing is just part of that. The famous belt-wielding wife. My father mentioned you in one of his last letters, said you were the most interesting opponent he'd faced in decades. Emily sipped her tea. He also said you'd be the key to Seoul's future, one way or another. What do you want, Emily? I want to know if you'll support me if I challenge Yoon. I'm my father's legitimate heir. I have support among the old guard. With Kang backing, I could take control smoothly. And if you refuse? Then I challenge anyway, but bloodier, more destructive. The treaty fractures, and we're back to gang warfare. Emily met her eyes directly. I'm giving you the choice because my father respected you, but I'm not asking permission. Sable felt the familiar weight of decisions, the calculus of lives and stability. Emily was smart, educated, probably capable, but she was also young, untested, driven by grief and vengeance disguised as inheritance rights. I need time, Sable said, to discuss with my husband, evaluate options, understand what you'd actually do with power. You have 1 week, then I move regardless. They parted with professional courtesy masking the threat underneath. Sable returned to the penthouse where Dae-jung was recovering from physical therapy, his shoulders still not quite back to full strength. Beck's daughter wants to overthrow Yoon, claims inheritance rights and hints at civil war if we don't support her. Dae-jung absorbed this calmly. What's your assessment? She's smart, determined, possibly more capable than Yoon, but she's motivated by grief, and grief makes bad strategy. If we back her, we might get better leadership, or we might get someone who rules emotionally instead of practically. And if we refuse, war. She'll force it anyway, fracture the treaty, undo everything we built. They sat in silence, the familiar, comfortable thinking space of their partnership. Third option, Dae-jung finally said, bring her in. Not as Yoon's replacement, but as his partner. Force them to co-lead. She gets involvement and influence. Yoon keeps stability. We maintain the treaty by integrating rather than choosing. Sable turned the idea over. That's actually brilliant, but will either of them accept it? Make them. We hold enough power now to dictate terms. Emily gets control eventually. Yoon's not young and his health isn't great, but she earns it by proving herself as co-leader first. Yoon gets security of our continued backing if he accepts shared power. You're talking about forcing a shotgun partnership on two people who hate each other. I'm talking about preventing war by creating interdependence. It's what we did with the original treaty, just applying the same logic to succession. Sable kissed him, sudden and fierce. This is why I married you. Brilliant, devious, strategic thinking. Thought you married me for my charming personality. That too, but mostly the strategic thinking. They spent 2 days setting up the framework, then called a meeting. Emily, Yoon, themselves, and Hwang as witness. The private restaurant felt heavy with tension. You're wondering why I called you both here. It's simple. Emily wants Yoon's position. Yoon wants to keep it. Both have legitimate claims. Both have the power to destroy each other and the treaty in the process. So here's what's happening instead. She laid out the co-leadership structure. Emily as official successor and active partner, learning operations while contributing fresh perspective. Yoon as senior leader, maintaining stability while mentoring his eventual replacement. Binding agreement that neither could act against the other without Kang approval. This is ridiculous, Yoon protested. I don't need a babysitter. You need insurance, Dae-jung corrected. Emily represents legitimacy and fresh blood. You represent experience and continuity. Together, you're stronger than either alone. Emily looked skeptical. And if I refuse, if I want full control now, then you fight Yoon alone without our support and probably die in the attempt. He's got infrastructure and loyal people. You've got anger and moral claims. Guess which wins? And if Yoon refuses, then we back you completely and he faces 2 organizations instead of 1. He loses everything. Silence. Both parties calculating, both recognizing the trap Sable and Dae-jung had built. Accept partnership or face guaranteed destruction. 6 months trial, Emily finally said. If Yoon betrays me or sabotages my role, the agreement's void. Same if you undermine his authority or act without consultation, Yoon countered. Agreed on both sides, Sable confirmed. You're bound together whether you like it or not. Make it work or lose everything. They signed the agreement, reluctant, resentful, but recognizing strategic necessity. Another crisis averted through forced cooperation. After they left, Wong laughed quietly. You two are terrifying. You just created peace by making war more expensive than partnership. That's literally how all peace works, Sable replied. We're just more explicit about it. The co-leadership took 3 months to stabilize. Emily and Yoon fought constantly at first, until they realized fighting achieved nothing but weakening them both. Gradually, grudging respect emerged. Emily's fresh ideas balanced against Yoon's experience. They became effective despite themselves. Seoul's underworld achieved something unprecedented: actual stability. Not perfect, never perfect in a world built on violence and vice, but functional, manageable. Almost normal. Sable watched it all from her office, coordinating legitimate business while maintaining shadow control of the criminal enterprise. She'd become what she never imagined, a mafia boss who used spreadsheets as often as weapons, who negotiated corporate mergers and gang territories with equal facility. You look thoughtful, Dae-jung observed, entering with coffee for both of them. I'm thinking about how far we've come. 6 months ago, I was a consultant reviewing shipping manifests. Now I'm running a criminal empire while developing legitimate business interests. How did this become my life? One decision at a time, each one moving you deeper into this world. Regrets? None. You? She considered. I regret the violence, the necessity of it, but I don't regret the results. Seoul's more stable, fewer people are dying, and we built something that might actually last. Built from treaties and belt attacks. She laughed. That belt saved my life more times than I can count. Speaking of which, Dae-jung pulled a box from his jacket. Anniversary gift. Inside was a new belt. Custom-made, Italian leather with a buckle that concealed a small blade. Beautiful and deadly simultaneously. It's perfect, she breathed. Functional and fashionable. Like you. I'm keeping the original too. Retirement with honors. As it should be. They stood at the window together, watching their city move through another day of relative peace. Somewhere below, Emily and Yoon were managing territories. Wong was training new recruits. Legitimate businesses were generating clean money. The empire was functioning. What's next for us? Sable asked. Expansion. Korea's stable, but there are opportunities in Southeast Asia. Singapore, Bangkok, Manila. Places where our model could work. You want to export our treaty system? Why not? If it works here, it could work elsewhere. Build a network of cooperative organizations instead of competing ones. Create regional stability through enlightened self-interest. Sable turned the idea over. Ambitious. Risky. Potentially transformative. That's a 5-year plan minimum. Good thing we're thinking long-term. Good thing we're partners. Always. Her phone buzzed. Message from Emily. Yoon's people tried backdoor dealing, caught them, applied consequences. Partnership holding but tested. Sable showed Dae-jung, who smiled slightly. She's learning, fast. Like I did, like anyone does in this world. Adapt or die. She typed back. Good catch. That's leadership. Yoon respecting the process? Emily's response. Grudgingly. Says you two trained me well. Not sure if compliment or complaint. Both, Sable replied.
Take it as both. As evening settled over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of amber and violet, Sable reflected on the impossible journey she had taken. From Atlanta to Seoul, from consultant to crime lord, from outsider to the woman who'd reshaped an entire city's underworld through intelligence, determination, and a designer belt wielded like a weapon of mass destruction. "Do you think we're the good guys?" Sable asked suddenly. He considered. "I think we're pragmatic guys. We reduce harm, create stability, protect our people. In a world without perfect choices, we make the best ones available."
We're not heroes, but we're not villains either. We're survivors who built something from chaos and try to keep it functioning. I can live with that. Good, because we've got dinner with the mayor tomorrow, negotiations with the tech consortium on Thursday, and Emily wants guidance on the nightclub expansion. Being pragmatic is a full-time job. She laughed, rich and genuine. Remember when my biggest stress was quarterly reports? You were bored out of your mind. I really was. This life is terrifying and exhausting and occasionally soul-crushing. But it's mine. Ours. We built it together, and every day we make it stronger. That matters. It does. They moved away from the window as night fully claimed the city. Somewhere in Seoul's vast maze of light and shadow, people lived slightly safer because of the treaties they'd built. Organizations cooperated because failing to do so meant facing Kang's unified response. Peace held because violence had been made more expensive than partnership. And at the center of it all, the curvy black woman from Atlanta who'd walked into an enemy stronghold with nothing but a belt and audacity, who'd proven that being underestimated was the greatest weapon of all. She'd grabbed the wrong woman, Seoul's underworld had learned, and that mistake had changed everything. But the story wasn't over. Empire building never was. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats, new opportunities to prove that intelligence and determination could reshape even the darkest worlds. Sable Washington Kang, queen of Seoul's underworld and master of the strategic belt attack, was ready for all of it. She'd been preparing her whole life for exactly this, and she was just getting started. The end.